All right, we are here today with Dr. Ryan Hummel, and you are coming in from sunny San Diego. And Luke and I are joining you today on episode 236 from Grand Junction, Colorado. Such an honor to have you on here with us today, ma'am.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Glad to be
so
here.
you were telling us your story offline, and it was a start here and go to Palmer. So you started out at Life and finished up at Palmer Davenport. And
Yeah.
if you wouldn't mind sharing with people your chiropractic story a little bit, I know I just kind of like spilled the beans, but share with people your chiropractic story and what really like drew you to this profession.
Yeah. So I grew up in Canada, and rugby is a very prominent game up there because of the English heritage and whatnot. And it got to the point where I was playing for the national team, and then I was in the midst of trying out for the actual first national team that I made under 19. And then I got this like stinger in my shoulder, and it got to the point where I was playing games, I would get hit, and my whole arm would go numb, and I could barely even move it without any function for 5 minutes at a time. So if you can imagine playing a game like rugby where you only had one arm that was working, it was pretty difficult. So at that point, I was lucky enough to have playing for the national level team out of all these very prestigious doctors. And I went to our sports therapist. He sent me to an orthopedic. I went to a neurologist. And of course, the only option they had was possibly doing exploratory surgery. Um, and then, but obviously, if I did something like that, I would have had to stop to play rugby, and it would have prevented me from making that team. So it wasn't really an option. And then we had this chiropractor that came to our trainings, and so I started to go see him in his office, and it was basically a miracle story. After my first adjustment, never had that radiation down my arm again, and then 1 month down the road, I went on a 6-week tour to Scotland with the Canadian under 19 team. Yeah, and it was awesome. Never went back from there. I got to the point where I played for the national development team and was going to make the choice of going to play professional rugby in Europe. That was kind of the next step. But at the time, a lot of my friends went and played pro, and they came back, 4 or 5 years later with a handful of money, but they never had a career, any future pathway. And so I started kind of questioning that. And then it's kind of a funny story, and I still have no idea how my information was passed on to the coach for the Life University rugby team. But one day, randomly at that same period of time, I got a phone call, and he offered me a full ride scholarship to go down and play for Life and become a chiropractor. And I always knew I wanted to get into the medical field, possibly be a PT or something along those lines. And that chiropractor saved my profession, in my belief. So it's like a beautiful synergistic thing. So I went down to Life in Atlanta, played rugby, and then started becoming a chiropractor. But when I was down there, that's when the whole life accreditation issue kind of started happening. All the political issues with Sid, poor guy, and yeah. So I was down there for a year, and I was coming back from summer break, and I drove my car from Vancouver to Atlanta, and I pulled up in the middle of the night. It was like 11 midnight. Pulled up, and there were U-Hauls. Like we're in the complex where I was living. It was all pretty much students for life. U-Hauls backed up in there, and everyone's like a max exodus, like overnight, moving out of their apartments into the U-Hauls and off to wherever. A lot went to like Parker, a lot went to Logan, and a considerable amount went to Palmer in Iowa, that's where I ended up. It was a very natural transition uh, with the rugby and obviously the prestigious school like Palmer. So it was a very easy transition for us, for me. So
Thank you for sharing the story. I was just talking to a friend of mine that's practicing down in Miami, and she was asking me, she's like, my son's going to go do a screening event for me at a gym. She goes, give me some strategies on how to do this.
yeah,
And I basically walked her through the whole thing. And she does mission trips. And I was like, just, that one adjustment that you give on that mission trip to that one person that never knew what chiropractic was, but you change the trajectory of their life because no, they're not dealing with that stinger anymore. And it
yeah,
could be a sciatica stinger. It could be a thoracic stinger that's preventing somebody's lungs from functioning the right way. It could be that little baby with torticollis that you check, and now that little baby is going to develop into a strong, capable person. And that's
Yeah,
just it, is you being such like uh a high level athlete and not wanting your career to go a different direction. You found the chiropractor, and
yeah,
the chiropractor changed your life,
yeah.
and now you're the chiropractor.
I'm the chiropractor. Funny how the world manifests, right?
And now you're changing people's lives.
Yeah. And now it's like now the key to my favorite thing now is I had my first child a year ago, so I have a 14-month-old boy right now. And so like all of a sudden I have this huge attraction to children's and pediatrics. And I think my favorite thing now is we have all these babies coming in with their parents and they're getting adjusted or whatnot. But my favorite thing is not like adjusting the baby themselves, although I love that. It's like to watch the baby aid in the adjustment of their mother or father when they're in the clinic. So I always have like we have this one girl, Malia, and she'll like hold the mom's feet or hold her hand to keep her safe, like aid in the adjustments. And then it's always a transition to like now they're grabbing the instruments, like whether it's the activator or Arthur Sim or whatever. They start grabbing the instrument itself, and it's like you can see this seed being planted, and it's hard not to imagine or wonder what that's gonna lead to down the road. This is a beautiful thing.
Powerful, powerful stuff, man.
Yeah.
So you have a really unique story. I can't wait for us to talk about. You have a very special relationship with a good friend of ours, Roberto Monaco. Maybe you
Yeah.
could tell us a little bit about how he has impacted your life or how you've impacted his.
Yeah. Well, see, so Roberto, long story short, basically through Garrick Gunderson, through Chris Zano, Roberto Monaco basically called the office one day, and because he heard about the principle of chiropractic from Dr. Zano, so that referred here. And then obviously everyone knows Roberto and how much energy and passion and love he has. And I remember the day he called the front desk, and my manager at the time was Trish, and she just like got off the phone with him, looked at me, and was like, "Who is this guy?" Like he was just so much energy and beauty behind him, and so like she couldn't wait for him to come in. Kind of got me all excited, and then kind of Christina gave the kind of lowdown on who he is. And so what happened is that his wife, Katie, and I'm free to express this stuff and talk about it, is that she was having some reproductive issues. They were getting pretty serious in the relationship. And she was having some remnant effects of birth control, and I was having some ovulation issues. So she came in, we took some x-rays. Obviously I saw some subluxation, like scoliosis pattern down in her low back. And we went to work. And it was probably, I'm not sure how long that period of time was, maybe 4 or 5 months. But I remember, funny enough, I was in Mexico City. I had a long layover. I was on the route down to Argentina for Christmas time, and it was Christmas Eve, and I was eating dinner in Mexico City, and I got the phone call, and Katie was calling. I think they called, and I didn't answer. They called back, and I thought it was an emergency, so I picked up, and they're like, "Woo!" They're screaming and crying, and they had a Christmas miracle. So Katie had her first cycle in a long period of time, and she was just ecstatic and through the roof. So it was a very miraculous kind of moment. And then fast forward, I don't know, 9 or 10 months down the road, boom, she was pregnant. And then fast forward 9 months after that, then their baby Sophia was born, right? And then I remember the moment specifically because I think he might have texted me or I saw a post, but I knew they were heading off to the birthing center. And I just remember going to bed kind of uneasy that night. And I woke up at like 4 a.m, eyes wide open. And I just remember sitting there thinking, I'm going to get a call. I'm going to get a call. Like I'm going to have goosebumps right now. I'm going to get a call. I'm going to get a call. So I just kind of sat there, kind of bug-eyed. It's 4 a.m. And then sure enough, Roberto called me a little bit after 5 o'clock. And he's like, here's what's going on. She's having like heart type palpitations. She can't breathe properly. There's something going on, something going on. And so obviously at the birthing center, they were thinking it was an emergency. They're just trying to push her towards the hospital, which is, the safe approach, of course. And then after all the hard work of going through a full natural birth and, kind of a hard birthing process, like the last thing they wanted to do was go to a hospital. So boom, called me. And then it was literally like just 8-minute drive up, just from where I lived. So I drove up to the birthing center, got in there, and little Sophia, the baby, was strapped into some monitors. And they're monitoring her breathing patterns and also her heart patterns. And you can see they were just AWOL across the wall. So basically they're like, all right, they gave me the baby. I don't think I've ever even held a newborn baby before. But I remember I put it on her back. Roberto and Kato were looking over me. She was on her back, and I just started kind of palpating her atlas, palpate, and then she would reach up and grab, and I was just waiting for the right moments. And after probably the third or fourth attempt, I remember I was able to get into the right side of her atlas a little bit, and I just felt this little, and I just knew the atlas went into place. So it's like there was this moment of silence, and I was just kind of sitting there, and then all of a sudden, ah! Ah! The baby just started crying like it was scared the living crap out of me, if I can say that word. Like I know. And then I look up and look at Roberto, and he didn't know what to take. I don't know if he was angry or mad. And so all I did is I gave the baby back to Katie, and then Katie grabbed Sophia and got her from like here to like a more sat up position, and then all of a sudden, just like vomited. And but it wasn't vomit. What it was fluid from her lungs. So when you have like quite often through the birthing process, when you get pushed, the fluid comes out naturally. But for whatever reason, it didn't happen with Sophia. So after I adjusted her atlas, activated her parasympathetics a little bit, then boom, all the fluid came out. And then after that, we all kind of laughed and like got goosebumps. And then I left them, got in my car. I remember I'm an only child, and I was, been living away from my parents for a while. I remember calling my parents. It was like 6 a.m, and we're all crying. We're talking about my birthing story, and I went home. And 3 hours later, instead of being in the hospital, the whole Monaco family was back home where they should be. And that's definitely by far my favorite chiropractic story.
That's such an amazing story.
Yeah.
And it's great because we've heard Roberto tell his side of the story at least half a dozen times now. So it's nice to hear it from the chiropractor who delivered the adjustment too.
Yeah. It was a beautiful moment for sure. Yeah.
That's the part where I just like see so much hope and promise for the chiropractic profession, for just everybody getting checked at least and adjusted if necessary.
Yeah.
And building a relationship with the chiropractor. And I think that's just so pure and genuine and real when you can actually get that type of just deliver that type of care to somebody. And there's nobody else that can do that but a chiropractor.
Yeah.
And there was a rampage a couple years ago where they're saying chiropractors shouldn't adjust babies or children, and they just don't get it. And that's why I love this type of platform with this podcast. Like, you're like, well, what's the format? Well, I'm like, well, we ask you questions and you tell people what's going on. And if you just breathe every once in a while, we'll be able to ask you the next question.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But that's just the truth of this, is like, we protect free speech in chiropractic with our show. And if we didn't have these candid conversations with people, somebody might not hear this and bring their baby to the chiropractor, or they might not bring their kids to see the chiropractor. And I think Sid Williams, our Sigafoo, said it the best, or Reggie Gold even. I don't know who this quote's from, but why would you come here and get adjusted and leave the rest of your family home to be sick?
Yeah, to suffer, exactly.
Yeah, or to suffer. And I think that's so true. And that story just kind of brings that full circle, as you can adjust the whole family, help the mother be to the point where she can actually conceive, and help the father to give their child a healthy future, and help the baby to assure that, and
then it goes to like
the story.
Yeah, and it goes to pregnancy too. I mean, like, this baby is in a womb, not even born yet, and there's a couple of research studies that show like over 60% reduction in labor time for the baby being born if the mother's getting regular chiropractic care. And so not only is the baby born into like more peaceful, loving energy in a room, you know what I mean? Because they have a more natural birth, it's a quicker birth. and then that effect ripples down into the baby being born and healthy overall, and then they're more proactive down the road, and just it's a never-ending ripple effect down the road. So the sooner anybody can get a chiropractic care, especially if you're a soon-to-be parent, it's absolutely essential.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So tell us maybe what are some of your favorite mantras or motivational quotes, words of wisdom that keep you fired up to do what you do?
In terms of chiropractic care,
Yeah,
It could be
anything,
any type of quote.
anything that resonates with you.
Well, so it's funny right now is that maybe not a quote per se, but I'm really getting into the world of quantum physics right now,
Okay.
and it's maybe a little wordy and heavy, but I find it so amazing that like if you don't know much about quantum physics and psychology, that when you start researching this topic and getting into it, the people that are the most on the forefront, the two people that are most on the forefront on this topic, are actually two chiropractors, and they're renowned across the metaphysical world. One is John DeMartini, and then one is Joe Dispenza. So I've been diving deep into that world right now of learning. Like I've done all DeMartini stuff, like his breakthrough experience at least 5 or 6 times already, and that was probably about 8 years ago. And then now over the past year or so, I've been just trying to get into Dispenza and reading him quite a bit. So I don't have any specific quotes that I can think of right now, but I just love that this avenue that I'm going down. It's like I just find it amazing that the two people in the forefront are Dispenza and DeMartini, two chiropractors.
Yeah, we've actually had the opportunity of when we first started our career, working together, promoting chiropractic. Unbeknownst to us, we had a chance to interview Joe Dispenza, and he actually made it in our first movie. And unbeknownst to me, one of my friends who is an astrologer was like telling me, "You have to go see this DeMartini guy."
Yeah,
And I was like, "Well, what's the commitment?" She's like, "It's $20 a ticket, but he's going to talk to us for 2 hours." And this is back, 6 years ago. And I'm like, I'm not paying $20 to go see some guy talk at a hotel ballroom.
yeah,
And little did I know that this guy was a chiropractor and it would change my future forever.
yeah,
And I stayed into that room, and I was the last person in that hotel ballroom. And I said to DeMartini, "Hi, my name's Jim Chester. I'm a very passionate individual. I'm making a movie on chiropractic. Would you like to be in it?" He said, "Sure. This is my hotel room. I'm available at 2 p.m. this Thursday. Come on over. I'll give you an hour of my time."
yeah,
So I went to DeMartini's hotel room, met him, interviewed him for our movie. So those guys are in the same movie that Luke and I made together
yeah.
6 years ago. So yeah, great people to study and to learn from. And yeah, they are doing great work within the world of influence and helping people find clarity.
Yeah, it just ties into B.J. Palmer's talks about innate intelligence, and he reads a lot of his writings. B.J. back in the day, and he was talking about quantum physics 100 years ago. That are people like the things that he said and quoted are just now becoming true like a century later. It's just absolutely insane to me. It was so like as a philosopher, he was just so ahead of his time. It was just phenomenal.
So, how do you think the world would change if everyone started getting checked and adjusted if necessary?
I think, I mean, because obviously, like in physical and disease process and whatnot, obviously your brain controls all function within your body. And I've like so much certainty in that, it's beyond belief. But the thing that I'm noticing more in this day and age, especially since COVID happened, is obviously people aren't, it's the tech neck syndrome, right? So obviously people aren't moving around like they're supposed to and walking 10 to 12 miles every day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So right now they're sitting down in front of a computer, in front of a cell phone, an XYZ. And not only are they watching the media that's obviously swaying their mindset and whatnot, but what it's also doing is you're sitting for long periods of time. And I believe that induced subluxation from sitting for long periods of time, as well as the media and what they're watching, is creating this state, especially in this country, of a lot of obviously fear base. And we've been lucky enough where our practice has absolutely exploded since COVID happened. But the people coming in is just a complete state of minds and content of being in this world, and like having fear instead of gratitude. It's just like it's really almost upsetting to see what's happened, and it's absolutely due to chiropractic, like the reverse of chiropractic here is sitting for long periods of time. So the biggest shift that we see with our patients that I get the most satisfaction from is not just like relief of their symptomatology within their body, but also like having more of a clear mindset and clear thought patterns, because these people are just, toxic, and they're coming in and they're just depressed, and they're resorting towards chemicals. And now, because of chiropractic care, obviously feeling better, but also thinking better as well.
Well, I think now people are they need chiropractic not only for the benefits of health, but also, like you're mentioning, for the sedentary lifestyle. And I believe that most people, even before this huge confused state that we live in right now, all of us are being affected by it.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's causing toxicity. It's so like people are just disrupted, and
Yeah.
there's a disruption on so many different levels when it comes to people just interacting with the natural world around them and each other.
Yeah.
And chiropractic is one of those beautiful professions that it's hands-on, and
Yeah.
most people are afraid to touch people or be close to each other. And chiropractors are like, let me get in there, let me
Yeah.
check you, let me
Yeah.
touch you, let me see where these misalignments are. And I
Yeah.
think that that's what makes chiropractic really like a very like just so authentic as like a caregiving profession.
Yeah.
You're actually putting your hands on people, delivering an adjustment to their vertebrae that's subluxated, putting pressure on their nervous system, allowing their immune system to then turn on and to take care of that person. And I think that's just most people don't get it.
Yeah.
That's the part that like I love these conversations with chiropractors is what you guys do is no one else can do it.
Yeah. But
And
I think my
that's
favorite thing is
power.
we have these patients come in and they're just like this in this toxic mindset, and they come in and they get like, obviously the biggest one is getting your atlas adjusted and how that affects your vagus nerve. And for the first time in like XYZ amount, like however what period of time frame, they're getting their atlas adjusted. So the first time in who knows how long, their body shifts from sympathetic to parasympathetic. So for the first time, they're able to like just finally relax and be and settle, And then they affected the adjustment immediately that way. And then also we never stopped hugging our patients. And so these patients come in, they got like 5 masks on, and they come in and they're in the fear mindsets, and they're afraid to even shake your hand. And they come in, and that's how they come in. And then the moment you adjust them, that fear and stress pattern, the fight or flight, like almost leaves their body. And then they stand up and you go to hug them, and it's like they don't even remember how they felt a moment ago in that fear base. Like at that moment when you clear that subluxation, and they're like, I always put my arms up, and they always put their arms up, and you hug, you know what I mean? And then they leave, and then for whatever period of time, I don't know how long that lasts for. Sometimes for a lot of people, it could be an hour, it could be 5 hours, who knows? But obviously, over time of correcting subluxation and remove that pattern more permanently, we see patients shifting from that fear mindset to more gratitude and happiness.
Beautiful.
So, where do you see chiropractic heading in the next 20 years or so?
Yeah, so I actually had this thinking about this yesterday. So I'm a big, Tony Robbins. I follow a lot of his stuff, like business programming and whatnot. And he talks about business life cycles, and then he also talks about industry life cycles. So business life cycles, where are you? Are you like a teenager? Are you growing, or have you plateaued? Or are you coming down the other side? And industry life cycle is a whole different thing. So if you think about like Blockbuster, for example, they peaked. We had VHSs, we went to DVDs, to Blu-ray, and then all of a sudden everything went to digital, and then Blockbuster kind of went away. You know what I mean? So in terms of us in the chiropractic life cycle, there has been no better time to be a chiropractor, I believe in history. And over time, all we're going to do is go more and more and more into, like, have you seen the movie Idiocracy?
Oh
By
yeah.
chance? Yeah. So like I think that was like 2100 when that movie was supposed to take place. I mean, that's coming very darn fast to us right now. And the quicker that we get there and the quicker we have all this evolution through technology, the more and more and more the chiropractor will be needed. And it'll make the difference between the person scooting around on their hovering scooter, drinking Coke, you know what I mean, instead of drinking water, versus being the person that's still able to walk and function and use their legs. Like the necessity for chiropractic over the next 20 years is just going to keep skyrocketing, and it's just going to be an exponential curve. So like it's a wonderful time to be a chiropractor.
I really embraced your answer, and I believe everybody's going to watch this episode, and if they're not a chiropractor, they're going to learn about chiropractic. If they are a chiropractor, they're going to embrace the future of chiropractic, and if they're one of your patients, they're going to hear your big reasoning behind why you do what you do. And that's the real beauty about these conversations on the topic of chiropractic and your career and your beliefs and your views and visions and what motivates you. And we just love doing this because it holds a safe place for the chiropractic conversation. And there's little judgment on our end, except for to share the secret of chiropractic. And that's something that's becoming more and more marginalized too, is censorship within people's messaging and what people will actually believe and who's making the messages. So it's really cool that we came in 3 years ago and started doing these shows and to feature people's career. I mean, this is your life, and chiropractic
real stories.
People don't just come in and start dabbling in chiropractic. Like they're like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And that's what's really cool about chiropractic to me is you become a healer and people rely on that. And when you learn business strategies and marketing strategies and you develop techniques really well, you do become somebody that's important to a community and a larger global scene.
Yeah, absolutely. And just based on what you just said there, it's also the necessity to just, I mean, like there's different types of business owners. There's artists, there's manager leaders, there's entrepreneurs, and chiropractors by nature, we have this like servitude. So we're all very romantic about chiropractic care, and it's a beautiful thing. And you want to get out and do mission trips, and it's such a beautiful thing we can offer. But the reality is, if you don't have attributes of being a manager or leader or even entrepreneur, like how is this message going to get out to more people? And how are you going to have more people coming in all into chiropractic offices? And when they come in, how are you going to have them more people close to actually get the chiropractic care they need? So, I mean, that's my biggest turnaround is that. So I think people just rely on the art itself, and the art doesn't need much more than just be the art. Where I think a lot of people, hopefully at some point sooner than later, they start dabbling into business success and learning how to run a successful business. Because if you are having troubles paying for your own rent or paying for your food, or you can't take the time to don't have the capability monetarily to take your family for vacations, so you can decompress for a week. I mean, all these things are so necessary for every chiropractor. But I just see so many examples of chiropractors just scraping by, as artists. If that makes sense. So,
oh yeah, chiropractic is a science, philosophy, and an art, and some people are better at the science, some are better at the philosophy, and some are better at the art.
Yeah.
So maybe go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just go back to Roberto Monaco. Is like the communication is just so vital. And so, like, you go through school, and this has been talked about before, is that you go through school and you have the whole spectrum of people's averages GPA. You know what I mean? And when you're going through school, what you're comparing yourself to quite often is, at least I did myself, is you think success as a chiropractor equals at that moment how high your GPA score is. But when you reflect back, the people that have succeeded the most, that helped most people, aren't the ones with the highest GPA. They're the ones that were the most social ones. You know what I mean? They can communicate with people one-to-one or communicate one-to-many. Those are the people that I've seen time and time again that are able to get out and serve more versus getting a straight A. So I'm not saying don't study, but communication is so vital.
Well, I had a conversation with my chiropractor buddy today, and I said, yeah, man, yeah, the doctor that finishes last in class is still a doctor. And and they could be just as successful because maybe they understood business a little bit better. And that's the part of the triune: science, philosophy, and art. It doesn't anywhere say business in there. And that's a part where we have to like basically teach chiropractors communication techniques and strategies, and we have to teach them business techniques and strategies. And that's how you can take that starving artist and make them a gallery piece.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you look back at chiropractic school and you look at business class, and I remember 2 classes specifically, and you learn how to, okay, am I going to be an S Corp? Am I going to be an LLC? I mean, that's business class. And I learned how to write a business plan to get a loan. That was my other business class. And so that's when you leave chiropractic college, that's what you've learned. How to go, nothing to do with like success and how to close and how to bring people in.
But I've taken deeper dives with conversations recently, and that's not their position though. A chiropractic college is supposed to develop somebody that can go out there and adjust and to understand the human body and to pass their state boards. That's their position in the world. And they just don't realize that they're producing people that go out there as certified, but they don't think that it's necessary in the curriculum to say you have to understand Facebook marketing, you have to understand social media marketing, and you have to understand how to do proper chiropractic external marketing events and dinners with a doc and lunch and learns. And they don't give those tool kits to the chiropractor, and those are expensive tools to start buying when you're like out of school, like year 1, year 2. And when you're a student, they actually give you student discounts for different events and seminars and things like that. And I've also taken some deep dives recently where the chiropractic like people have been practicing for a long time. Like, I'd recommend students getting involved in clubs and taking advantage of those student discounts instead of going out and like partying and going on spring breaks, going to a chiropractic seminar and learning techniques and building relationships and shadowing offices and learning from somebody that's done it before them and building that type of network. And I think that's going to make a successful student become a successful doctor.
100%. The other, I don't know if you know Dr. Vince Bertolini, but he's my partner here. And he went through that. So his obsession was when he's going through school, it wasn't to get the best scores. I'm not sure what his GPA was or whatever, but he focused in on technique, clubs, and then he focused in on I don't know if I can name drop, but he was the president of the Maximized Living Club at the time. So he learned all about the procedures of how to run a business. So when he got out of school, he was very prepared to open a practice and run with it.
I like that guy a lot. Good choice.
Yeah. And then we also have, do you know Dr. Jimmy Lopez?
I like that guy a lot.
Yeah, he's moving here and partnering with us. And we're going to open 2 more practices in the near future.
Good choice.
Yeah. Should be a fun time.
Chicago in the house.
Chicago in the house, yeah.
So maybe
we never thought we'd actually get Jimmy out of there, but he's coming.
Maybe you could tell us who some of your heroes are, some people who have inspired you to be where you are today.
So again, is this chiropractic or business in general?
No, anybody.
It could be mom, it could be dad, it could be God.
It could be Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I mean, there's a little lineage here. I mean, obviously my parents growing up. There's a couple of moments in life where I had two rugby coaches that just truly, I don't know what they saw in me, but they saw a lot of potential, I guess. So they put a lot of heart and love into me and helped me develop very quickly, with rugby and support and whatnot. And then I went to chiropractic college, Sid Williams. I remember sitting down and we had our like initiation talk at Life University. They put you in like a back room, and they put on this video, and it was this video of Sid like walking through a forest, and it's very odd kind of video. And then we got up, then he spoke to us, and it was just that just blew my mind. I remember him sitting there just over and over, just grabbing the keys and dropping. And how many times when he dropped the keys, what percentage when he dropped the keys and they go down? 100% of the time, right? So that's a certainty, like the law of life and the law of chiropractic care. Like that's how certain he was about the adjustments. If I adjust you every single time, your body will increase in function. It's a certainty of life. It's a law. You know what I mean? So Sid was huge for me. And then the next one I can think of is, do you know Dr. C.J. Mertz?
I do.
From Waiting List Practice. Yeah, he's who I was in my last, what is that, Palmer? Is it quarters? I was on my last quarter at Palmer. Is it tries or Palmer quarters? I forget.
Tries.
Was that?
Like rugby. I think they're tries.
Tries, okay. Last try, and I remember I came across, because I was moving to Ireland, and then to be with a friend and another doctor there, and they wanted me to get into WLP. So got into CJ Mertz, and I remember we went to a seminar in Washington. Like I graduated chiropractic college on the weekend. That Wednesday, I flew to Washington, D.C. for a 4-day WLP event. And then that Sunday, flew to Cork, Ireland and then that Monday, started practicing in Ireland. I remember just training through CJ and going there. He was just a remarkable man that did amazing things. And he had heart of gold and just an amazing businessman as well. And then, then from Ireland, my grandma got sick, bought my first practice in Bellingham, Washington, was there for a couple of years, then moved down to San Diego, and then joined Maximize Living, which had a huge impact on my life, with Lerner especially. Something about him just always made me want to be a better person, not just a better chiropractor especially, but also just being a better person. And then that's when I kind of got into DeMartini. I got into Tony Robbins for a long period of time. Now here I am with Dispenza. So it's kind of a lineage of people that have made big steps for me along the way, or helped me make big steps.
That's quite the impressive list, man. And it's really cool that you had a little bit of time in my hometown of Davenport, Iowa. And you walked through the halls of BJ Palmer land and DD Palmer land and Harvey Lillard land, and where all the legends came from.
Yeah, it's such a, like, when you walk in there, there's such a palpable energy when you're in that main original building. Like, it's just, I don't know what it is in there. It's like just the vibration and frequency level when you're in there. You can just feel so much intention, and I wouldn't say healing. That's not the right word. But like necessity for advancement, or just something about being in that building, and like thinking about the rails. Some of the rails are still the original rails that they had. You walk around, all the quotes are on the wall. I love my favorite ones are the ones in the gym. I'm trying to think of them and drawing blanks. But yeah, there's something very special about that place.
Yeah, and just knowing that Mabel Palmer was there, and just the legacy and the history of the first female sorority was founded there. And walking up Main Street and walking around that campus, it's just a really special place, man. And I didn't know really how powerful it was growing up in Davenport, Iowa. And just being a kid from Davenport, Iowa, you're just like any other kid that grows up in any other city. But I always saw that, hanging out around that area. I went to Davenport Central as well, the high school across the street.
Yeah.
And I saw like this group of people that looked like they were going to change the world. And they were walking around, and they're from everywhere. And I was like, where are all these amazing people coming from? And why are they choosing Davenport, Iowa? And what is this thing over here?
Yeah.
And anyways, I hurt myself playing high school football. Okay. And my high school football trainer told me I needed to go get x-rays. He told my mom to take me over to Palmer because, they would do discount x-rays if you're like, a high schooler. So anyways, my mom takes me over to Palmer, gets me x-rays on my shoulder. And at that point, they are like, well, can we take x-rays of his spine too, to see if he has any subluxations? Anyways, they took x-rays of my spine, and the rest is history. At 16 years old, I got my first chiropractic adjustment. And then I realized what was happening over there. And I
Yeah.
realized what that college really was doing, but I
Right.
didn't really still even understand the power of it. I just knew that when I got adjusted, I felt better, and that my mom got me some x-rays. And when she would get me adjusted, I would perform sports better. I could run better when I was playing soccer, or I could kick better when I was playing football. And it was just really awesome. And I didn't really understand what that history was in the town that I grew up in until I became an older version of myself. But it's really cool to know that you finished up and got your degree from there.
Yeah, very proud of it. Got my Palmer diploma on my wall, and yeah, yeah. And people like still. I mean, they still people. I don't know how it's probably my bio on my website or something, but to this day, people seek Palmer chiropractors. And down here in Southern California, there aren't very many of them. And people it's just a renowned institution, you know?
It's a reputation.
Reputation, exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
And what a legacy, eh?
Yeah, man. It's a fun story, man. It's really good talking to you today.
Thank you.
So what would be some advice you would give to a chiropractic student who might be struggling right now?
Repeat that. Sorry, cut out there. So one more time.
What would be some general advice you would give to a struggling chiropractic student?
That hasn't yet graduated, or that is still a student. I mean, that's exactly.
They're just joining student clinic.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like a patient, like I had a patient yesterday. He was asking me, like, how did you learn how to finally adjust, right? And I'm like, well, they teach you how to set up, and you learn how to set up the adjustment for like I forget how long, like 3 months or 6 months, and all you're doing is learn how to set up, and set. It's like when do you finally get to actually deliver the adjustments, you know? And then wait, so when naturally, at least for me and all my friends, is that we went home and just started beating each other up. We're trying to heal each other, but beat each other up. Um, and that's where I think just this club, like being part of a club, is so vital, and going to seminars. Because if you go, I mean, the price of going to a seminar when you're a student, like you were saying, versus when you're an actual chiropractor is a smidgen, you know. And I was obsessed because I was concerned about being a good doctor. Am I going to be able to diagnose properly? Am I going to X, Y, Z? So my passion was trying to be the best adjuster I could be. So I did ART, I did SOT, I went through every seminar, every technique in school, seminars outside of school as well, as much as I could. And the coolest thing there is that you don't just develop certainty in the craft you're about to deliver when you graduate, but you also sit around with a lot of like-minded people. And you also meet a few people that are doing the best they can possibly do in those fields. And I always gravitated towards that. So when I went to seminars and I heard this doctor over here was seeing, 500 a week or 1,000 a week, I'd be naturally just kind of draw to that person, to sit around them and hear their thought patterns and hear how they're talking and what story are they telling themselves or telling others. You know what I mean? So like what's that quote? Like you are the average of the top 5 people you hang yourself around with, that you hang around with most often.
Mhm.
So if I was a student, I'd be looking for doctors that are succeeding how I would want to succeed, whether it's helping the most people or business sense, making the most money or whatever that case may be. Try to find mentors. Like don't try to recreate the wheel. You know what I mean?
That's really good advice, man. I think this interview is going to help so many people, and it's going to be able to make an impact from years down the road. And I'm just really blessed to be able to have this conversation with you and Luke today. And I I want people to know who you are now, besides the chiropractor and the rugby player. And what are your hobbies? What do you like to do when you're not in the office and at seminars learning more, and with your family and whatnot? But what do you really like to do? What do you listen to? What do you read?
Well, so my whole thing right now is I remember like when Chris Zano experiences back in the day. I remember him, like the quote was being handcuffed to your table. And I think a lot of people, there's when you're a business owner, you're either an owner or you're owner and operator. You know what I mean? And so I got into some seminars where I realized if you're handcuffed to your table, you're stuck to this lifestyle where you're a constant operator, and then you never get to leave your business, because you're always checking your profit and losses, you're checking emails, you're checking your Facebook campaigns, then you go to your office and you're taking care of your patients, you got to do your notes, got to help with your billing, and it's like you can almost remove the passion and joy you have for what you're doing because you're so stuck doing the things you got to do behind when the clinic's closed, working on versus in your practice. And so my goal, I came to this realization about 2.5, 3 years ago, is that I was done being the operator. I want to go adjust patients because that is what I love to do and that's what I want to do. Not because I have to, if that makes sense. So I started going down that pathway pretty heavily. So I opened up a couple franchises. We're going to open up our third this year. So I have other businesses and avenues of income that are coming in where I don't have to worry so much about, how many care plans I sell this month, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And then strategic partnerships with people that you trust and love. So what we're doing this year is I'm going to be selling 2/3 of my practice to Dr. Vince and Dr. Jimmy. And they're going to come in here and we're going to be one nice tightly knit kind of support structure for one another. And that way, if say I want to go to France for a month or for a week, or if I want to, because my biggest thing right now is I got married to my beautiful wife 2 years ago and I have a 14-month-old baby. I have another one coming in June, is that I want to make sure when they are ready to rock that I'm able to pour in on them and travel and do the things that I love to do. But I never want to leave chiropractic. So I've been, after trying to set up a scenario where I can have best of all worlds, if that makes sense. And me and Dr. Vince have been at capacity in this practice since over the last year at least. We're just at capacity. We just can't grow anymore because our systems are tight and we're very efficient, but we can't grow to the next step, if that makes sense. So that's why Jimmy's going to come in. He has a lot of amazing tools and insights and skills himself, and he's going to come in. And then our goal is to have our second practice open by July 1st of this year. And then by Q1, Q2 of next year, have our third practice open up in North County, San Diego. And another big thing is we want to create opportunities. So, there's this old quote about chiropractors. The chiropractors love to eat their young. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one. But a lot of times chiropractors, they don't treat their associates or contractors or whatnot fairly, and quite often unfairly. So we want to create pathways for young graduates to come in, learn, get educated, master their techniques, but most importantly, not just go get hired in some practice and make their associate wages or whatnot and get their bonuses or whatnot. But what we want to do is implement sweat equity. So we have these docs that graduate or wherever we find them from, they come in and then they have a future. So they over time, their percentage of ownership of that individual practice, it increases over time. And then our ownership decreases, and that's through sweat equity and heart and work, basically, if that makes sense. It's that way some doctor isn't 5 years into their, being a doctor and having their license, they're not stuck and they don't have any money saved because they haven't made much money. I don't know if that makes sense, but to give opportunities for ownership for other doctors. So they have ownership mentality and don't want to leave because they're happy. I don't know if that makes sense. So that's kind of the goal we're trying to work towards.
It all makes sense. And just to let you know, 2 Sundays ago, I had a 2 hours and 15-minute call with Jimmy. And we were just going round table talking about mindset and marketing and strategy and branding. So hopefully he can bring some of that conversation to the success of his position with you guys going forward.
Oh, yeah,
And
I'm not concerned about that at all.
love and appreciate that guy. And I think what you guys are doing out there in San Diego is really special, and look forward to you guys making a huge impact together. And like we discussed off interview before we started, if I can do something to help you, never hesitate to reach out. Chiropractic is my life force, and it's something that I've just fallen in love with as a profession. And you guys are all really special, man. It's really cool to see you three guys coming together for sure.
And brother, you as well. I mean, obviously, I watched dozens of your interviews. And watching those and what you're doing and how you're always like omnipresent where chiropractic is, and where the center of chiropractic is in the universe at that moment, wherever the hotbed is, you always are there. You're always contributing and getting amazing answers with your questions. And just when you were just really struck a nerve with me in a good way when I saw you down in Mexico and pouring in, and because my wife is Mexican, and I just love and adore the Mexican culture. And then I don't know, it was just so like beautiful to see you down there. And then because you went down there for that seminar, and then you went back and you were touring around the area, and you saw the beautifulness of the people and the country of Mexico. So it was just, it's really good to see that.
We have a good future together too. Trust me.
So, what are some websites people can go to if they want to learn more about you and what you're doing?
Well, we're actually just totally rebranding our website right now. So, we hired all these companies over the years and have my opinion about that kind of thing. So now we're finally have hired a website specialist that's going to build our own personalized website. It's like a month-to-month fee kind of thing, and that should be launched in the next 6 weeks. But the website is elementwc.com, like Element Wellness Center, elementwc.com.
Cool. Well, is there anything we didn't ask you that you like to mention today?
No, that was a good time.
Well,
Awesome.
thanks for setting some time aside today to be on an episode of Chiro Hustle.
Thanks, Jim. Luke, it was an honor, man. I appreciate it.
Yep. And if you guys at home want to run a podcast just like us, go to chirohustlemasterclass.com. Ryan, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Banana.
All right. Talk to you soon, bro.
Bye, guys. Talk later. Bye.
Have a good day.